From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a huge evening here on Evenings LALATE. As Biden has done it, the fourth stimulus check updated 2021 today starts with breaking news tonight as the president signs into law major legislation that anchors fourth stimulus to the finish line. The president oversees, signs into law a major detail that helps fourth stimulus get over the finish line. We'll be going over that monthly stimulus check that the Democratic senators, Democratic House members, and the president want you to have in the fourth stimulus package. Then we'll be cutting to the fifth stimulus that heats up this fall with breaking news about one, an additional $1 billion being added to the equation. Second, a potential fifth stimulus check. Yes. And also the incredible economic data that came out yesterday about the consumer price index that would signal your benefits could go through the roof. Then in the middle of this video, we go over the thousands of dollars you can get right now. I'm very excited for you. And then in the second half of this video, we go over the big details about what to expect next week for fourth stimulus as it continues through the reconciliation process to the finish line. It's a big evening. It's an extended Evenings LA broadcast, and it's starting right now. The toast was toasting, the butter is boasting. And we're not yet toasted, but it's early. Get ready for that cocktail. Evenings LA is starting right now. It's Evenings LA. Hope your Friday has gone wonderful. You made it to the weekend. So time for the toast to be toasting. Time to toast for the weekend. We always, celebrating the weekend is a good reason to celebrate. So toast the toasting. And away we go. How's the weather where you are? It's supposed to be wonderful tonight here in Southern California. The sun has not yet dropped, so I'm watching that sun drop here in Santa Monica. I'm excited for you to join me tonight on Evenings LA. Drop in the comments where you are watching from and how the weather is. Love to see where you're tuning in from domestically or internationally. In this fourth stimulus check updated 2021 today, we go over the breaking news from actually overseas as the president signs into law a major part of the fourth stimulus equation. We'll be going over all the details. We'll be going over that monthly stimulus check that the Democrats want you to have from both the House, the Senate, and the president, and when, where, and how it works. Then the second half of this video, we'll be going over fifth stimulus with a lot of breaking news, including more benefits than ever anticipated and an additional stimulus check. Yes. And then we cut back to the big money you can get. It's an extended broadcast, but first, subscribe. This is LALATE, the only 24-hour-a-day, 7 days a week financial news channel. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record in 1 year for a reason. We're the best that there is, delivering you everything you need to know. It was a week ago today that I told you something was going to be happening tomorrow. Well, you're going to find out why it's important to stay with me, because even on Saturdays, breaking news happens. Also, like this video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Let's get right into that stimulus analysis. It starts with the House bill and the Senate proposal, both from the Democrats. The Senate proposal and the House bill, let's look at them. First, the House bill provides a stimulus check for the remainder of the pandemic plus 1 year. The Senate proposal, on the other hand, provides a stimulus check between now and December, more specifically, July to December. Let's look at the monthly payouts. The House bill is $1,000 after the first month monthly. The Senate monthly amount is unknown, but word on the street is it's this. Wow. Word on the street is the Senate Democrats want to give you $2,000 a month over 6 months, $12,000, or $1,400 a month over 6 months, $8,400. That is per person. Yes. Now, if you're watching the show just after 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, get ready to vote in the comments. House or Senate, which one you like, and tell me where you're watching from. And if you're watching the show later tonight, drop in the comments instead of the live chat your thoughts. But don't vote just yet. Let's go back to this. Legislators and insiders think that the pandemic may be over by the time the House votes. If that's the case, then the House bill would provide 12 months of checks, which over 12 months would equal $13,000, compared to this from the senators over 6 months. I think you have an opinion. I think you have an opinion. So jump into the live chat right now and vote House or Senate. House or Senate, and tell me where you're tuning in from, and tell me how the weather is tonight where you're watching. Let's go over everything else you need to know about the amount of this fourth stimulus check for the Democrats. First, the Democrats want the stimulus check, the fourth stimulus check, to go to everyone who got a third stimulus check. So single individuals, 75,000 or less, you would get a fourth stimulus check from the Democrats. Married couple, 150,000 or less, you get a fourth stimulus check from the Democrats. Double it. Family of four or less, you get a fourth stimulus check. Quadruple it. The Democrats propose. And then finally, yes, if you're on benefits, the Democrats want to give you a stimulus check. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, away we go. The stimulus check is not income, so it's not taxable. The Democrats propose stimulus check of same amount to everyone. So if you're a single individual, adult dependent, minor dependent, everyone the same amount. The fourth stimulus check is not waivable, so don't wave at it. It won't wave back at you. It won't know you. Hi, check. No, don't work. Because it's a monthly check. It can't come out in waves. It has to come in on a monthly basis. And the Democrats represent that the vote would be July 4th. They anticipate the fourth stimulus check would go out in the month of July for the month of July, and in the month of August for the month of August. And there you go. That is the first of three parts of your fourth stimulus check update of 2021 tonight on Friday's Evenings LALATE. But stay with me, because I got two more parts coming up and the breaking news about that major deal by the president overseas. But first here, let's take a preview of the second half of this video, which is fifth stimulus. Fifth stimulus has not one, but three breaking news stories tonight. One, the fifth stimulus check. Two, the additional $1 billion allocated to Social Security recipients through their administration system. And third, the incredible benchmark. Fifth stimulus will raise your benefits up if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and railroad benefits, and apply a new benchmark, which is inflation. But yesterday we saw new numbers from Wall Street that signals that number could go through the roof. Oh, wow. That's coming up in the second half of this video. But now let's turn to some big money, because you deserve it. If you're new to this channel is all about getting you money, not tracking checks. We don't track checks, we cash checks. And when third stimulus was passed, I immediately told viewers you're going to qualify for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 because it's in there for you for third stimulus. Well, congratulations. A lot of that money's landing today. And if you've gotten anywhere from a penny to $10,000, I've gotten people $50,000 on this channel, then drop in the comments, because every time you get a penny and you post it, it inspires other people to get the money as well. And if you've never gotten a penny, tonight's your night. Get a pen and paper ready. I got a lot of money to get you in this video. Stay to the very end. There's a lot of money across this entire video. It starts with money for rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, homeowners utilities, and more. And that rent is about $5,000, 4 to 6 months of rent. So how do you get it? $350 billion landing now for you from the federal government and your city, counties, and states for you. It is landing. Congratulations. Well, it's not all for you. Who do you think this is? The Publishers Clearinghouse? Powerball's not 2 hours from now, so maybe you'll get that. But no, it's for you to share the $350 billion. So I want you to reach out and get that money. You're going to reach out to different locations. Each location has their own eligibility. Remember, if you get a no at one stop, go to the next stop. They all have their own pot of money. Got that pen and paper ready? Or if you're tuning in with a Crayola crown and it's purple, then we're all good. Here we go. City Hall, City Housing Authority. County Hall, County Housing Authority. State Hall, State Housing Authority. The key word you're going to say is rent assistance because of COVID. Rent assistance because of COVID. You're not, also if you're calling up for mortgage, you're going to say mortgage assistance because of COVID. You're not going to say words that they don't understand or never heard of. So you don't want to say something like stimulus, which they've never heard of, or Kelly Dodd Leventhal. Don't use words they just don't know. Who? I don't know who that is in your Mariah Carey voice. So you want to say words that they know, and people that they know. And there you go. So let's now get to the next pot of money. And boy, we were inspired on Monday. We were very inspired on Monday. When on Monday's LA, one viewer jumped to the live chat and said she got, because of this channel, $565 a month for her family. Boy, that's about $6,000 to $7,000. What is it for? Snap. Snap has been one of the big success stories of this channel. It is money for food. And Lynn Glenn got it for her son and her mom and herself. Gail got it. How do you get this? Where do you get it? And how much is it? It's about, first you get it from Department of Agriculture. Reach out to Department of Agriculture, DOA. The eligibility is about the same as a stimulus check. How much is it? It's a lot. Family of four in Hawaii gets upwards of $16,000 a year. Why so much money? Because of two wonderful executive orders, one from Trump and one from Biden, that raise everyone's benefits up 15% between now and December. $16,000 for SNAP for family of four in Hawaii. Wow. About $5,000 for rent. We are killing it, and we are only 10 minutes into this video. Congratulations also to Tim and Linda, who got that money for rent and utilities. But the next pot of money is even more. About $5,000 one viewer got for this. And what is it? It's money coming back from your states as ordered from the federal government. What is this money? The federal government has identified some states as overpaying you unemployment assistance due to computer error. Not your computer. Your computer works fine. It's their computer that doesn't work. And they overpaid your benefits and said, hi, we had a computer error, return the money, which you did. Well, the federal government has stepped in and said, no, your computer worked fine. You should have been able to keep the money. And now has ordered the states to return the money back to you. Wow. So how are you going to get it? On direct deposit to the account that you have on file with your state unemployment department. When? Check out to your state for routing times across the board. Then we get to the big money, which COD got about a week ago and jumped into our live chat on overnight's crypto, which this show will send you right to once this video is over. Once this video is over, stay with it. It'll send you to overnight's crypto. COD dropped into that show a week ago and said, I got that money. I want to tell other viewers that's coming. Isn't that wonderful? That's the true spirit of this channel. People helping people. And what did COD get? He got that money back that he had paid for taxes on that unemployment assistance. Let's go over the details, how much, when, where, and how do you track it, starting right now. The federal government is paying back over all the money you paid on the unemployment assistance of 2020 up to $10,200. Let's go over how you calculate it. First, let's say you had $9,000 of unemployment assistance. You paid $5,000 to IRS, of which $4,000 was your taxes on unemployment assistance. Congratulations, you're getting back $4,000. Next, when? In the month of June. Then where? In the case of COD, he had that direct deposit set up on his bank account. Everyone else, in the mail. Can you track it? Yes, about 70% of the time. Go to irs.gov, sign in, set up a username and password, and track it by doing a transcript search. Put your name in, do a Social Security search, and it'll reveal when you filed the taxes, when you filed the tax return, the taxes you paid, and the tax refund coming back to you. Wow, that is wonderful news. Can we top it? And we can. Which brings us to the second half of our fourth stimulus check update of 2021 in this video. It brings us not to Washington, but overseas, as in the last few hours, today, the president has now signed into law a major deal that anchors forced stimulus over the finish line. The deal is the global minimum corporate tax rate, which, to make things very simple as an overview before I get into the details, basically allows the president to now go back to the forced stimulus and remove provisions because he doesn't need them anymore, because now he got the G7 countries around the globe to agree to it in their legislation. This is a big game changer. It is wonderful, wonderful news. Where are we on forced stimulus? First, we have learned this week that they're marking up the bill. What does marking up the bill mean? It means they're actually editing drafts of the legislation. Wow. Number two, we have learned from the House Democrats they want those monthly stimulus checks. We learned from the Senate Democrats they want those monthly stimulus checks. And we've heard from the president's staff when asked whether he likes stimulus checks. He said, sure. There we go. We have had suddenly forced stimulus checks become front page news in broadcast media. The only people not talking about stimulus checks are the people not giving you stimulus checks, the GOP and conservative media. Finally, when is forced stimulus going to go to the finish line? The reconciliation process has already begun, and the final vote will be by July 4th. Lastly, we have learned from anyone from including we have learned from the entire scope of the Democratic caucus, including Joe Manchin, that they're all on board to pass forced stimulus. Wow. Now let's go over all the details and bring it up to the major deal the president signed today. It started the Friday before Memorial Day weekend when Leader Schumer announced three wonderful things, which I had been reporting days earlier. Number one, the reconciliation process has already begun on your forced stimulus package. Number two, it will be done July 4th. And number three, it will not be held up for anything. It will pass. Okay, Chuck, I love that. How do we get to that point? We got to that point because Jalabal had written Chuck a letter saying, call the vote, Chuck. Call a vote on the recon. Well, what's important is not so much the letter, but who signed it. The letter was signed by 12 House Democrats. Those 12 House Democrats are among the 100 who had written the president a letter a week earlier saying they're going to put monthly stimulus checks into the fourth stimulus package. Oh my goodness. Wow. Can we top that? We can. When a week ago, about 7 House Democrats wrote the president directly a letter and said, Mr. President, when we go to write the legislation, we're going to put monthly stimulus checks into the fourth stimulus package. Oh my goodness. So who are these people to say that? They are the people who wrote the first stimulus check. Really? The second stimulus check? Yes. The third stimulus check? Yes. And they're now saying they're going to put the fourth stimulus check in there. They are on the House subcommittee that's solely and exclusively responsible for writing stimulus checks legislation in the United States. Oh my goodness. And for the first time on Evenings LA, you're hearing as well that in that letter they say they're going to put fifth stimulus checks into the fifth stimulus package as well. I'll explain that later in this video and how that works. Oh my goodness. The president was asked about this letter this week, and he said, I like it. Of course he does. He's not going to veto stimulus checks. So, boy, can we get better than that? We can't get better news than that. The letter also went front page across all broadcast media talking about fourth stimulus checks this week. Oh my goodness. Can we top that? Yes. Minutes ago, hours ago, the president signed into law a major ancillary legislation that anchors fourth stimulus over the finish line by removing provisions that he doesn't need to do anymore by legislation in the United States. It's now been signed internationally. Oh my goodness. Okay, now this one I have to slow down because it's a little complicated. I had told you about this for several weeks. I had referred to a respective Tuesday, a recent Tuesday, and said, this one's confusing. Let me slow this down. So I'm slowing it down again. Fourth stimulus is paid for by raising the U.S. corporate tax rate. As soon as the president announced the fourth stimulus, he said he was worried that in raising the U.S. corporate tax rate, U.S. companies may leave the U.S. and may move overseas to find what is a lower corporate tax rate in another country. He calls it racing to the bottom. So what he had done on a recent Tuesday was reach out to leaders of countries around the globe and say, would you agree to raise the minimum corporate tax rate in the countries so that a business won't leave our country and go to yours? And they said yes. That was good news, tentatively. Well, the president had come back to his insiders and said, after fourth stimulus is passed, in August or September, I'll go back to those G7 countries and have them sign on the dotted line. And if they do, then I can remove certain provisions from the fourth stimulus package and drop the corporate tax rate. Well, guess what? Someone in that staff had and that was wonderful news. That was wonderful news, that you would get multiple stimulus checks and then drop the corporate tax rate. Well, then someone in that staff had a brilliant idea if it was not the president. Don't wait to do it after fourth stimulus. Do it before fourth stimulus. In fact, do it today. And today, it was done. Last Friday, a week ago today, I told you I saw buried in a news article. It was not front page news. It was barely nowhere, this article, that the president was going to have a meeting with the G7 countries a week ago tomorrow. I said, I don't know what's going on here, folks, but stay with me on Mornings LA tomorrow on Saturday live. I'll tell you what's happening. And a week ago tomorrow, the news came out. The president had an agreement and was going to sign into law today. And today he signed it into law. Let me explain how wonderful today's development is. First, it anchors fourth stimulus over the finish line. Second, it's by putting it now before fourth stimulus is passed, not after, it helps push fourth stimulus over the finish line. Number three, without going into boring tax code, which will put everyone to sleep, it removes provisions by passing this law now, signing this law internationally today. What the president does is he no longer needs certain provisions in the fourth stimulus about corporate taxes. Not all of them, but some of them he can now remove because they're now protected in that international treaty. This is absolutely wonderful. Basically said, it makes fourth stimulus package much more simple, much more easier to pass, and anchors it to the finish line by using an international agreement of 7 countries across the globe. This is huge, and that's why the president flew internationally for his first trip today, because of the significance of helping pass forced stimulus. Boy, is anything better than that? Yes, there is something better than that. It's coming up in the second half of this video as I go over the third part of forced stimulus coming up in the second half. Also, the really exciting news about fifth stimulus, the big add-ons and that fifth stimulus check. That's all going to get explained as well. But first, here's a little bit about the volunteers. The volunteers are here on this channel to help you get rent, utilities, and mortgage assistance. If you can't find it, don't worry. Reach out to the volunteers. They're salt of the earth. They embody the Purple Power spirit. Viewers helping viewers. Open the description of this video. Go down to where you see an emoji of a house. Click the link to goes to news.lalate.com/community. Has a picture of some kitty cats. They're not the volunteers. They're just kitty cats. Go down on the page and then you'll find the volunteers. They're separated from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and they'll help you get that money. And I'll be back in 60 seconds with the third part of our update about the forced stimulus check. It is exciting. We'll also go over the protagonista and the end of our telenovela. It was a boring telenovela. It's been canceled. Then we'll be going over the exciting news about fifth stimulus. Stay with me. It's coming up after this commercial break. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.lalate.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now on Evenings LALATE with more exciting details about your fourth stimulus and your fifth stimulus package heating up right now. It's a big night, and I'm really excited for you on the second half of this video. In the second half of this video, we go over all the details you need to know about the fourth stimulus and the fifth stimulus package. And we also go over everything that you need to find across the board. It's a big night, and we're far from over in tonight's broadcast. Let's get to all the exciting details starting right now. Boy, what a night it is. I'm really excited for you for everything that is happening this evening. Boy, as we go over fourth stimulus this evening, we have a lot to see and a lot to talk about. But first, subscribe. I don't want you to miss a single video across the board. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. Also, like this video. Don't miss a single thing across the land. And also consider becoming a member. Let's get into all the details starting right now. I found my link. Let's do it. Boy, fourth stimulus heats up this fall, but heats up this summer. But let's get into fifth stimulus that heats up this fall, starting right now. There's a series of things that you need to know about fifth stimulus going into tonight's evening's broadcast that are really shocking. The first one is that the president this week did a major deal, and that deal was to put a $1 billion allocation into the budget bill. And what's that $1 billion for? For the administration of Social Security benefits and anything for recipients to be done faster, easier, breezier. If you remember in the third stimulus, a lot of people who were on benefits didn't get their stimulus check on time. We had all that problem with Comerica, Direct Express. Well, guess what? The president saw those problems and has now dedicated $1 billion to the Social Security Administration for administration protocols, issuance, and governance to make sure you get payments on time going forward. It's needed. as we get ready for fourth stimulus checks to land in your bank account, and fifth stimulus this fall with the new benefits, and also potentially fifth stimulus checks. The next thing you need to know about fifth stimulus is how it works and the breaking news about that as well. First, they're going to raise your benefit limits. Then they're going to remove the asset limit, add an inflationary benchmark, and then apply the then remove the income exclusion and remove the marriage penalty. Now let's go over how that works, but first look at the economic data that came out this week, which is shocking. On Thursday, we learned the new May Consumer Price Index number, CPI. What is that? It shows what the price of goods in the United States were in the month of May, how much they went up. Gas, groceries, auto sales, things like that. Well, it went up 30% year to date from May of last year to May of this year. Wow, is that a lot? It is a lot. It's the most in 30 years. It went up the highest rate in 30 years, year to date. And that rate growth was the highest we had seen since the Great Recession of the 2000s. Oh my goodness. So is that good news? It is very good news for benefits recipients because it signals that the inflation rate will go very high later this year and then go back to normal. Let me explain what's at issue. Under fifth stimulus, they're first going to raise your benefits up a lifetime. So if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, they're going to raise your benefits up one big time. Then they're going to apply an inflationary benchmark. Let's say the inflationary benchmark was just 6%. That means that in addition to that raise up, then they're going to step you up 6% for that inflationary benchmark next year. But not just next year. That's lifetime, because the way benchmarks work is once they step you up, they never step you down. Now, that number then yesterday about the CPI from May suggests the inflation rate may not be 6%, but absolutely through the roof. What's going on here? This is what Wall Street is looking at. They're thinking that the inflation rate is going to continue to go up very, very high temporarily, or a word that they use, or the Federal Reserve use, called transitory, temporarily. And then as it gets to that peak, then it comes back down and goes to normal. That it's really only at that peak maybe for a month or 2 months. Well, here's what you want to hope for. Yeah, you want to hope that it hits that peak right when they're assessing that benchmark the first time in December, because it'll be the highest inflation rate of a generation, maybe many generations, maybe 30, 40 years. So you want that because that lifts your benefits up that amount and you'll never step down. It is huge. You see it. You see how important this is. Next, they're going to remove the asset cap, dating back to a 1980s law that says you can't have more than $3,000 on hand. They're going to remove that law so you can put those stimulus checks in your hand. They're going to remove a 1960s law that says you can't work. Now you'll be able to work and stay on benefits. And finally, they're going to remove the marriage penalty. Penalizes you from being married or prevents you from getting married. Viewers like Rob and Sandy will now be able to get married and not fear the marriage penalty. Love is going to win. The marriage penalty is going to go away. Now, fifth stimulus has a lot of other things in there. It's important to know what's in there. And the way you do is by becoming a member. The link's at the top of the chat in the pinned comment. In a given day, every single day, I send out a breakdown to all my members, Purple Hawks, Purple Powers, Calcino, VIPs, what's in the fourth, what's in the fifth, and what's in the third stimulus package. Because there's thousands of dollars for you under the law. And you sometimes don't know what it is because it's application based. We're not tracking checks, we're cashing checks. So consider becoming a member so you know what's in there, whether it's a senior or single individual or a hazard pay individual. And it's important to see that money and ultimately get that money. Now, let's go to that fifth stimulus check you heard about earlier in this video. Yes, those seventh House Democrats wrote the president a letter saying, in addition to putting fourth stimulus checks in the fourth stimulus package, we will be putting fifth stimulus checks into the fifth stimulus package. Why and how does that work? Viewers have sent a lot of questions about this one. Let me explain my impression of what they're thinking. They're not particularly clear, first of all, but let me explain my impression of the situation. That they're looking at four stimulus checks as running now to December, and then fifth starting next year and continuing thereafter. That's what I'm thinking their mindset is. Fifth stimulus, remember, goes to writing in September, finishes out the door about November, October. So under that mindset, you would potentially say, hey, stimulus checks go out in December for January, go out in January for January. So it sets up pretty nicely to understand they're thinking about January 2022 for those fifth stimulus checks. And with that, let's now go back to forced stimulus and know everything else you need to know about forced stimulus. In this extended evening's broadcast, I'm going to go over now my impressions of forced stimulus, the steps for the voting process, the protagonista and her telenovela, and where we are right tonight. Let me give you where we are right tonight. We are currently in the reconciliation process. The process will be ended by July 4th. Leader Schumer confirms that the vote will be finished by July 4th. The entire Democratic caucus is aligned and ready to vote in favor of it, including Joe Manchin, and that the process will finish with approval by July 4th, that the markup of the language of the bill is currently underway, that the Senate and House and Democrats both want you to have stimulus checks, and the president likes it. That's where we are now. Let's go over the protagonista and her telenovela. You know, it's one of those moments when I try to think to myself, how long do I want to cover a story if the story is dying? In the case of her story, the story is almost dead. Why? Because it was a half a day story. But ultimately, I know how YouTube channels are. There's ultimately someone going to jump in on Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon and say, what about her? And they may not have heard the Friday broadcast. While the story is effectively now dead almost, I think I need to run it a few more days so you know the story's dead. And really dead. So what was that telenovela, and who was the protagonista, and what was the storyline? The storyline was about an individual, an elected official, a Democrat who wanted to get publicity for themselves. Her name, Kristen Sinema, Democrat out of Arizona. As soon as the president left U.S. soils to go overseas to sign into law today a provision about the corporate tax rates of businesses to pay for the forced stimulus, what did she do? She started talking about gas taxes. Yes. Gas taxes? Yes, gas taxes to pay for the forced stimulus. And who did she talk to? Retiring, quitting, GOP exiting leaders who don't represent the Republicans, and she certainly doesn't represent the Democrats. Not involved with her, Joe Manchin, of course. So why is she doing this? It's called political grandstanding. Sometimes political officials do this to get reelected. Sometimes they advance their career. Sometimes to increase their donations. If you were with me in 2020, Josh Hawley got an enormous amount of publicity for what he proposed to do, but never did, with Bernie Sanders. In fact, he got one of the largest political donations for campaign for presidential run for the next election because of what he had said he was going to do for stimulus checks and never did it. The problem creators in fall of 2020 talked a lot about what they were proposing to do, but never got anyone to ever agree to anything that they wanted to do. In fact, they represented no one. What did they get? Nearly 300 TV appearances, broadcast media appearances, bookings all over the place, a lot of self-advancement. So it's important to understand that political officials do these things sometimes. So what is this protagonista doing, and why is the telenovela over? The protagonista reached out to these exiting Republican individuals and said, would you agree to certain things? And shortly thereafter, her press team filtered into the media a claim that she had gotten nearly an agreement from Republicans and Democrats about the forced stimulus package. For the first time in the history of forced stimulus, the Republicans and the Democrats agreed upon one thing. Kristen Sinema had nothing, and that it was just hogwash. They came out, and the GOP said, these people you're talking to don't represent us. And then the Democrats came out and said, you don't represent us, and the other person in the room with you doesn't represent us, so stop this. And it stopped. And that's ostensibly where you are. You will continue to hear from the protagonista over the next few days because it's publicity. People want publicity for themselves. And ultimately, it's important to understand it means much of nothing. The telenovela is over. It was one episode, maybe two, and that's about it. So now let's go back to calling the vote. Calling the vote, and your questions about calling the vote, because you've had great questions, really wonderful questions about this. Calling the vote is 9 steps from step A to step Z. Viewers have asked, when are they going to start calling the first vote, and when are they going to finish? Well, we know when they're going to finish, July 4th. But sometimes they do all the voting very condensed in a big pack. Sometimes they do the first half and then stop for a week or two, and then they start up. It just depends. Let's go over the steps. 9 steps. First half are procedural, second half are substantive. And the second half, it's important to listen to what we get when we get to the votorama stage, so you understand that one as well. Step one, the procedural bills call for a vote in the House subcommittee. Step two, the House floor votes on the procedural bill. Step three, the Senate votes on the procedural bill. Step four, the President signs into law the procedural bill. At that point, the tow truck has passed over the finish line. Now time to go back and get the tow hitch, the substantive bill. Step five, the House subcommittee writes and votes on the substantive bill. That's the step at which the House subcommittee would likely put the stimulus checks in there if they so wish. Step six, the House floor votes on the substantive bill. Step 7 and 8, the 2-day votorama. These are literally the last 2 days before the bill becomes law. What are the votorama? What is the votorama? During those 2 days, senators amend whatever was given to them by the House. So, if the House gave them something with no stimulus checks, the senators can add them. If the senators got something from the House with stimulus checks, the senators can modify it, amend it, or leave it alone. And step 9, the president signs into law. Finally, a personal message from me to you about the entire forced stimulus. It's very important to know that I saw a wonderful, wonderful comment after noontime LA today, but before this broadcast. The viewer was on Twitter, and the viewer said to me wrote on Twitter to me, to LALATE, can you please tell viewers to get on Twitter? They're not doing enough. And yeah, I've said that as well. It's very important that you go on social media and push right now, that you pick up the phone and call your elected officials now, that you write them letters right now, that you get the push right now. Because in the last 3 days, I've seen, not so much on the channel, but on social media, people saying, I'm happy because I've heard. I'm unhappy because I haven't heard. No, you have to push. Let's recap what elected officials have done to us in 2020. They had legislation that was passed into law that was to provide you money, and we never got the money. They had bills that was proposed to give you money, and they never called to vote. They had proposals that never got reduced to a bill, and they had talk that never got reduced to a proposal. So it's important that you tag elected officials with these videos. Share these videos on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or do your own Twitter campaign, your own memes, your own memes, your own GIFs, and hashtag MSC, hashtag Purple Power. You need to push because now is the time in which they're writing the legislation. Don't assume anything. Don't presume anything. It's important to push Purple Power. That's how we get stuff. Hashtag MSC, hashtag Purple Power. I'll continue to remind viewers across the board in the next few days, continue to push. And the more you push, the better we are. I've seen more and more tweets, but it's still not enough. Finally, recap. We're currently underway with the reconciliation process, the process we've done by July 4th. The president returns to the United States shortly. The forced stimulus will be now simpler because he'll be able to take out certain things about corporate taxes that has now been passed into law internationally. And the forced stimulus package has the complete alignment of the Democrat caucus. The amount, the details currently being worked up in the subcommittees. Time to push Purple Power. And with that, join me next on Overnight's Crypto. You can stay here and the video will take you automatically to Overnight's Crypto live on air. Big developments, details are happening about AMP, Polygon, Decentraland, Live Peer, and also Bitcoin Ethereum. So stay with me. But first, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers. I don't want you to miss a single video across the board. A YouTube record in 1 year. Subscribe right now. Like this video. Every like helps in the algorithm ranking. And consider becoming a member. Purple Power, Purple Hawk, Purple Calcina VIP. Share these videos. Stay positive. Stay focused. I'll see you next on Overnight's Crypto, followed by Evening's Crypto. Then Overnight's programming starting at 9 o'clock, then 11:30 as well. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.